Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are really strapping in for a very focused look at a single moment of, well, self-challenge, I guess.
Yeah, and it's all drawn from one source, which is fascinating.
It is. We're diving into Notes on Gardening, Part 729, which is a personal journal entry. It was published just recently on November 27, 2025.
And it details this really abrupt change of heart a gardener has about a plant they'd, basically written off for years.
Exactly. And we're going to look at the pretty dramatic long-term implications of that pivot.
I'd say it's more than just a change of heart. It feels like a real confrontation with a bias they've held for a long time.
Okay, so what's our mission today with this?
Our mission is to really unpack this sudden shift on the prickly pear cactus. This is a plant, as you said, previously rejected, and now we need to analyze the practical demands and maybe even the philosophical costs this new idea imposes.
So we're moving from just, oh, I like this now, to actual planning.
Exactly. From a simple preference to concrete logistical work.
All right, so let's start where the gardener starts, right? With
Mhm.
the prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
They state very clearly, generally never been a huge fan of cacti. But the reason is the interesting part. It's not the spines, it's not the look.
No, not at all. The very specific. It wasn't the form or aesthetic appeal.
The deal breaker, the entire issue, was just the slow growth rate.
And that right there is the pivotal detail. It's not an aesthetic objection, it's a practical one. It's impatience.
Sure, I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. It reflects that desire for a visual reward, for results that happen on a human timescale, not a desert timescale.
And so that impatience can be a barrier, right? It keeps you from seeing what might be a perfect solution.
It was a huge barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And it only broke down because of an outside influence.
The catalyst,
Mm.
which was a recent field trip to a plant nursery.
Yes, the classic weakness of any gardener.
Yeah.
You walk into a nursery and all your rules go out the window.
Right.
They mentioned stumbling upon some rather popular prickly pear cacti, and just seeing them forced an immediate revaluation.
I find that so interesting. The sight of a mature, thriving plant one that's already past that slow part can just instantly erase years of intellectual resistance.
It's the ultimate sales pitch. That instant gratification is, well, it's a powerful marketing tool for a nursery, isn't it?
It lets you bypass all the hard work in your mind and just imagine the final result in your garden.
Precisely. The nursery shows you the payoff, and suddenly the slow process feels, well, worth it. It changed the whole calculation from this grows too slowly to I need that in my garden.
Okay, so let's unpack the specific allure here. This wasn't just any old cactus.
No.
The gardener narrows it down. They note the plants were likely Opuntia ficus indica or Opuntia coccinellifera. That specificity, it signals more than just casual curiosity.
It does. That level of detail shows you they're not just looking for a cactus. They're looking for something with a specific function, a specific aesthetic.
So what's the difference? Why are those two species significant?
Well, Opuntia ficus indica, the Indian fig, is a huge deal commercially. It's known for its edible pads, the nopales, and of course the fruit. It also gets pretty big pretty quickly, at least by cactus standards.
So if they saw an impressive specimen, it was probably large and structurally mature, the exact opposite of the slow-growing plant they had in their head.
It was a perfect counterargument. And the context here is key. They're not just, collecting plants randomly.
Right.
They're systematically evaluating different species for various garden microclimates. So this prickly pear suddenly has a specific purpose.
And we know what that purpose is. The project is creating a desert-themed garden.
Yes.
And the location is very specific, an open garden area in the front yard.
And this is what's really crucial for you to understand. The prep work that's already been done. That front yard space is already currently filled with substrate.
Not just dirt.
No, not just random dirt. We are talking about engineered soil,
Well-
gravel, sand, special porous mixes, all designed for the drainage that desert plants like Opuntia absolutely need.
Wow, so that's a huge commitment already. They didn't just wake up and say, maybe I want a desert garden. They already built the foundation for one.
It's an anchor. That substrate-filled area is a pre-made habitat just waiting for the right tenant.
So by connecting the appeal of the Opuntia to this waiting microclimate, the gardener is basically synthesizing desire with necessity.
Exactly. The prickly pear isn't just a pretty plant anymore. It's the logical, ideal inhabitant for a space they have already prepared. It elevates the whole thing from just a preference to, actual ecological planning.
Okay, but this is where the tension we've been building up really comes to a head.
It is.
They've solved the what to plant, but now they run straight into the problem of how to get it.
The reality check.
Yeah, they saw these big, mature, compelling cacti at the nursery, but that came with some immediate hurdles.
The notes capture it perfectly. The cacti they saw were quite large, which means immediate impact, but then they admit they didn't manage to check the price.
And in the world of specialty plants, quite large usually means quite expensive.
Extremely costly, for sure.
So that size and cost barrier brings us right back to the central conflict of this whole journal entry.
It does.
The mature plants offer the instant solution to their impatience, but they clash, fundamentally, with a really deeply held belief about how to garden.
This is the absolute crux of it. The gardener states a strong preference for growing plants from seeds or young seedlings.
This isn't just about saving money, then.
No, this is a whole philosophy. It's a commitment to the process itself. They would rather take the long, slow road than the easy one of just buying a mature plant.
Let's really dig into that. Why would someone who rejected a plant for being too slow now reject the ready-made mature version in favor of the slowest method possible? It feels like a complete contradiction.
It does on the surface, but I don't think it is. It's about prioritizing control and investment.
What do you mean by investment?
When you start a plant from a tiny seed, you have full control over its entire life, its health, its environment, everything. Buying a mature plant is, well, it's an act of consumerism.
But growing from seed is an act of authorship.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. For this gardener, that process, the nurturing, the challenge, the reward of bringing a seedling to maturity, it outweighs the desire for that immediate visual impact.
So their old impatience was about wanting the finished product faster, but their new commitment is about valuing the journey more than the destination.
They're swapping instant satisfaction for a deeper, multi-year relationship with the plant. It's a huge shift.
They are intentionally choosing the longest possible timeline for a project with a plant they already rejected for being too slow.
It's a dramatic detour, to say the least.
We have to think about what this actually means for the front yard project. That area, the one that's filled with substrate and ready to go, it's just going to sit there.
It's going to be waiting for a long time.
If they start with seedlings, how long are we talking before that space looks anything like what they saw at the nursery?
Years. For a slow-growing plant like Opuntia, even the faster varieties, to get the scale you'd need for a desert-themed garden, you could easily be looking at several years.
Wow.
We're talking about sacrificing the entire immediate look of their front yard for the sake of their cultivation ethos.
Which raises a really important question. Is their preference strong enough to endure years of just looking at a mostly empty, substrate-filled patch of ground?
That is the conflict, isn't it? The battle between the aesthetic vision and the preferred methodology. The whole argument about growth speed has been completely flipped on its head. Now they're actively choosing slowness.
Okay, so if we pull back now, we've gone from the initial bias to the species, the logistics, and now this philosophical anchor of starting from seed.
The central tension is really well defined.
And the journal entry makes it clear this isn't the end of the story.
Right. They end the post by noting, this continues from my previous post and will go on till the next post. They've set the stage, but the decision hasn't been made.
They've established the Opuntia as the ideal plant for the microclimate, and they've defined their constraint, this preference for seedlings. But the evaluation is still ongoing.
They have not yet committed to the multi-year timeline versus the, size and cost of just buying a mature plant.
Which leaves us with a really interesting point for you, the listener, to think about. The inspiration came from seeing those quite large prickly pears, those fully formed structures that solve the whole slow growth problem in an instant.
But the gardener's core belief, their whole ethos, is tied to the tiny, fragile seedling.
So the final provocative thought really hinges on that trade-off. Scale versus patience.
Yeah, when they sit down to actually make the final decision, what's going to win? Will that deeply ingrained commitment to growing from the smallest possible stage, their love of the process, win out over the desire to see that front yard finally realize its full aesthetic potential?
Sooner rather than later.
Sooner rather than later. That is the scale of the philosophical trade-off that I think really defines this deep dive.